everybody, welcome to the Let's Talk Review Show. My name is John, and this week we got 4 brand new reviews for you guys. We got Christine on 4K Blu-ray that we're going to talk about, the new James McAvoy film that came out last week, Speak No Evil, and we also have 2 reviews for you guys that are also donations from our channel director, Mr. Smelly Potato, and those movies that we're going to be reviewing, they are going to be given away in our physical media care package giveaway that we'll talk about along with our digital code giveaway at the very end of this video. But let's start it off with Christine. After doing my top 10 John Carpenter movies, I was in the mood to actually talk about Christine. It's one of the movies I rewatched for that list, and I was just surprised at how much I really love this movie. I didn't put it that high in my top 10, but it's one I feel like is just going to go up and up because I really enjoyed this film. And this 4K Blu-ray is pretty damn good as well. But let's talk a little bit about the movie first. It's an adaptation of a Stephen King novel of the same name. It stars Keith Gordon as Arnie, and really this movie is about Arnie. You know, it's not just about a killer car. I feel like if you just tell people Christine's about a killer car, they're going to roll their eyes at you and be like, oh, that's just a silly B-movie. Now, John Carpenter, he does kind of make B-movie films, some genre films. That's what he's most known for. He gets the most out of his budgets. This movie was only made for under $10 million. Now, it wasn't a box office success or anything. It made $21 million at the box office, so the studio recouped their money. But like a lot of other John Carpenter movies in the 1980s, they just weren't appreciated at the time. John Carpenter's just one of those directors making genre films that I feel like, you know, they gave him a little bit of money, said, hey, go out and make your movie. And then they kind of got mad at him when the movie didn't make that much money or the critics didn't really respond that well to him. It really took until the 1990s for people to realize that John Carpenter is more than just that director who made Halloween. He made some other classic horror films as well, some other great genre films. And for me, Christine is one of those really underappreciated films. Keith Gordon is that kid in this movie. He starts out, he's just a dweeb, a really dorky, nerdy kid. He's got one friend who's on the football team, you know, his really one cool friend who really cares about him and is willing to protect him because he is somebody who's getting bullied in school. It's a movie that takes place in the 1970s, and of course it's an adaptation of a Stephen King novel, which means that, you know, there are going to be bullies, there's going to be some greasers because, you know, that's what Stephen King likes to put in his books, perfectly adapted into this film. And at the very beginning, before we see Keith Gordon's character, we get to see Christine being born. This 1957 Plymouth, I believe. We see it being born on the factory line with Bad to the Bone playing. You know, you got that haze, a really good flashback scene. We start the movie off with Bad to the Bone. We end the movie off with Bad to the Bone. And we can see right from the beginning that Christine, she's a real bitch. She is a mean car. She does not have the best of intentions, and unfortunately, she gets her, I guess, I wouldn't say her teeth, but I guess she gets her wheels right into Keith Gordon's character of Arnie. You know, this is kind of the thing that ends up making him cool, is getting this car, fixing it up in the junkyard. You know, he finally feels like he has a purpose. And of course, unfortunately, this car is starting to get, you know, fall in love with him, essentially. It's making him cooler, but it's also giving him a little bit of an edge to the point where his family and friends, they don't recognize this kid anymore. He's actually starting to become a little bit of an asshole, and you know, everybody knows it's because of the car. They don't want to say out loud that the car is evil because that would just be silly, but it is because of the car, and things just start to get really out of hand as the movie goes on. It's got some classic iconic scenes, like when he says show me, and then the car rebuilds itself.
Okay, show me.
And you have the John Carpenter score over all of that. Great John Carpenter score in this movie, but you have that iconic scene, and then the other iconic scene of Christine chasing the one kid while it's on fire after coming out of this blown up shop. Just an incredible looking scene. And you know, this movie isn't a flawless film. As much as I enjoy this movie, it does feel like the turn for Arnie, when his character really makes that turn from this dorky, nerdy kid into this really cool kid, it happens really fast, and I feel like they kind of rushed that aspect of it. The movie is 110 minutes long, and I felt like the first act and the third act, they went on a little bit too long, and the middle part of this movie, it could have used a little bit more time. So I feel like you could have cut some stuff in the beginning, cut some stuff in the third act, really showed Arnie making that turn a little bit more, and you would have had a better film. Still keep it at 110 minutes long. I just feel like it could have been paced a little bit better and just fleshed out the character a little bit more, because at one minute he's this way, and then the next minute he's this way, and we're just supposed to kind of buy into it, and I felt like if they'd done that just a little bit more gradually, the movie itself would just work a little bit better. But either way, Christine is a fantastic, entertaining as hell film. Definitely one you should check out this spooky season. If you wrote this one off as just a stupid kill a car movie, it's a lot more to that. It's a lot more nuanced than that. You also get Harry Dean Stanton in this film 1 year before he does Repo Man in Paris, Texas. Always love seeing Harry Dean Stanton pop up. He's doing his usual Harry Dean Stanton shtick, but I don't care. It's still fun to see him in this movie, just playing the cop, investigating what the hell is going on. You kind of need that, because if you don't have that kind of to ground this movie a little bit, it probably wouldn't work as well. And like I said, not a perfect film, but definitely one you should check out. Now, what about this 4K Blu-ray? This 4K Blu-ray was actually released in 2018. I have the standard edition. There was a really nice steelbook that I had in my hands. I could have got it, and I cheaped out, and then eventually I bought this in a sale, which I don't mind. I think I got it for like 10 bucks. I really stole this one because it is a really good 4K Blu-ray. Back in 2018, they were giving us a lot more of the bells and whistles, even though they weren't perfect. They did pack in a lot more. So when you come inside, it is a 2-disc set. We get the Blu-ray, the previously released Blu-ray, which I think is from 2015, and then that 4K Blu-ray. All of your extras are going to be on that Blu-ray as usual. You know, you'll have the trailer on the 4K Blu-ray, and it's just a messy menu system there. Sony was doing this at the time. You can look at it's very similar to the menu system in Moon. But unfortunately, unlike Moon, all of your extras are on that Blu-ray, previously released extras. You get a commentary track with John Carpenter and Keith Gordon, which is pretty damn cool. And then you get a bunch of featurettes and the deleted scenes. For people who like the deleted scenes, they are on that Blu-ray as well. But you get 3 featurettes, which are, tying into a car. I think they're called like Christine Ignition, Christine Finish Line, and Christine Fast and Furious. One of them's like a half-hour making-up documentary, and then the other 2 are like 10 minutes long. Either way, I really did enjoy them. They should have just put it into one making-up documentary. They didn't need to separate the other 2 featurettes. But either way, I still really enjoyed the interviews. John Carpenter is always down to do an interview, so I really appreciated his interview on there. Now, that stuff is a lot of fun, but when you get into the audio, you're going to have a Dolby Atmos track, a brand new Dolby Atmos track at the time, which was an upgrade from the Blu-ray's DTS HD Master Audio 5.1, which you can find on the 4K. And honestly, it's not the greatest Dolby Atmos track, and if you compare the DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 to that Atmos track, it's not that big of a jump to that Dolby Atmos track, and that's just a product of the time. Unfortunately, they were just throwing Dolby Atmos tracks on every 4K Blu-ray at the time, really to help sell it, like, hey, the big thing about going to 4K is we're going to have these new Dolby Atmos tracks, but they're just not mixed very well. I feel like, they just wanted to have it just to say that they had it, and they didn't put enough time into the mix, because it just doesn't feel like it's spreading around as well as it should be. It sounds fine, everything comes in crisp and clear, it does have its moments, but like when, that big sting in the score when we see Christine, rebuilding herself, I feel like it would have been better had it been coming out of a different channel than one it does. It just kind of disappointed me, the Atmos track. Like I said, it's not bad, but if you're just going out of your way and comparing it to a 2024 Atmos track, I just feel like it would have been mixed much better. Or honestly, they probably wouldn't even give you that nowadays, so I should probably be a little bit grateful and stop being so mean about the track, because it is still pretty damn good. It's just if I'm comparing it to others, it's just one that's not going to stand out. Now, the visuals, they absolutely will stand out. That previously released Blu-ray is pretty good, like most Sony Blu-rays from the past. They are still very well done. Sony is probably the best when it comes to the major studio labels putting out 4K Blu-rays, and they were no different in this sense as well. The 4K Blu-ray is still a jump from that Blu-ray when it comes to the visuals. When we put that HDR10, no Dolby Vision on there, just HDR10. That HDR is doing some work. First of all, it brightens everything up. And that flashback scene in the beginning, you do not lose anything. You don't lose that haze. It still looks like a flashback scene to the 1950s. I was very worried about that. You still want to keep that little bit of faded look. But then when we jump to the 1970s part of the movie and you see the red car, my God, that is going to pop off your screen. The red lettering jacket. The HDR is just making those colors pop off your screen a lot more. It is sharper. The deep blacks is really what impressed me. I was very surprised because the Blu-ray actually does a pretty good job at this as well. So the 4K is obviously just going to enhance that. And it did a great job with the deep blacks while still maintaining the brightness of the colors. Everything you could ask for in a 4K Blu-ray. It's also not perfect when it comes to the visuals. There are certain scenes that felt like they were a little bit muddy, but, for the most part, Sony always does a good job cleaning up their 4K Blu-ray. So I'm going to chalk that up to it just being a source material thing and actually not a problem with the 4K Blu-ray. So either way, or I think this is a really good 4K Blu-ray. It's not the greatest 4K Blu-ray I've ever seen, but for 6 years later, they've actually done a pretty good job with this one, and it's one I can still recommend you pick up to this very day. I still would really like that Steelbook, but it doesn't matter. Either way, or if you grab Christine on 4K Blu-ray, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with it, especially if you're a fan of Stephen King and John Carpenter. You absolutely have to have this one in your collection, and I would give this 4K Blu-ray an 8 out of 10. Definitely worth your time and money. And now we're going to talk about the brand new 2024 horror film directed by James Watkins and starring James McAvoy, and also Mackenzie Davis is in this movie. That'll be the other really big recognizable face for this film. It's a remake of a 2022 Spanish language horror film. Now, I didn't see that horror film, but from what I've heard, a lot of people have said that the 2022 horror film, the original one, is a better film, which does not surprise me at all. When we do the American remake, it's usually very hard for them to live up to what the original language film was. And in this case, it sounds like, now I can't say for sure because I haven't seen it, but it sounds like that version is better. Now, one thing is, I saw the trailers for this movie, and the trailers give everything away. So if you have been fortunate enough to not see the trailers for this movie, and I try and avoid trailers, but unfortunately they were playing the Speak No Evil trailer a lot at AMC theaters, so even though I would try and avoid the trailers, it was very hard to avoid that one because they did a pretty good job marketing it, and it did make some money at the box office, but still, they give the entire movie away. So if you've been fortunate enough to not see any trailers, try and avoid them like the plague because they give the entire film away. And what is this movie about? Well, James McAvoy and his wife, they meet another couple on vacation. Both couples have a child, so it makes a lot of sense. They kind of form a relationship. Then Mackenzie Davis and her husband, they decide, okay, we're going to go spend a weekend at their farm. We can see clearly Mackenzie Davis and her husband, they have some problems that they are going to flesh out throughout this film. James McAvoy, you know, what they're selling this movie on is that James McAvoy can play that kind of crazy like we saw in Split, and they're trying to sell you on that in this movie. Again, unfortunately, though, they give all that away in the trailers, is that he's kind of playing this character who is not what he seems. He seems like a really nice guy, a really outgoing, friendly guy, a guy you would get along with. Now, Mackenzie Davis, she's a little bit more skeptical of James McAvoy and his wife, so she's really like the one trying to point out all the flaws of what's going on. And Mackenzie Davis does a very good job in this movie, but James McAvoy, of course, steals the show when it comes from an acting standpoint. He is great in this movie, as I expected him to be. Mackenzie Davis is good. The other actors in this movie, they are fine. The movie itself, just a quote what my buddy Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews said, this movie just feels very generic and forgettable. And unfortunately, it just does feel like that. When you look at this movie, you go ahead, you see it in theaters. I saw it with my wife. We had a good time. We talked about the movie after. And then that was really it. It's just one that you're going to forget about after, you know, a day or two. And that's unfortunate. It does feel like they did put some effort into us, but it just does feel like you're very straightforward studio horror film that they said, hey, let's just get this out there. But at the center of it, you do have a great James McAvoy performance that you should see. It's definitely worth seeing the movie just to see him do his thing. There were some unintentional laughs in my theater, which is unfortunately a flaw of the film because it's supposed to be this big serious moment, and people were laughing mainly because of the faces of the other actors. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And that was also something that was pretty unfortunate because this is a serious subject matter that they're talking about, and it does have those funny moments that I don't think they were intending for you to be laughing at. But overall, Speak No Evil is a fine horror movie. It's just nothing special. It's one that you could check out, but I don't think it's one you were going to love. If I was going to rate this film on a score of 1 to 10, I would give Speak No Evil an okay 7 out of 10. Definitely check it out at some point, but it's not one I can recommend you go see in theaters right now. And the last two movies we're going to talk about this week are two movies that are actually going to be included in our physical media care package giveaway that we're going to talk about at the very end of this video. But these two movies will be given away in that care package. The first movie is Premium Rush, and the second movie is Nerve. Now, I had never seen either of these movies. Premium Rush, I actually remember when it came out. Nerve, I don't remember coming out at all, and that's ridiculous because it's a very good movie. But let's start it off with Premium Rush. This came out in 2012. You know, right around the time when they were trying to make Joseph Gordon-Levitt a leading man. You know, he kind of was around for a long time. You know, he was around as a child actor. He appeared in a sitcom. I can't remember. Third Rock from the Sun. He was good on that. John Lithgow was good on that as well. It's one that I would see episodes of, but it wasn't one that I watched all the time. And then, of course, he kind of grew up and became an actor. And this is the same year, I believe, as The Dark Knight Rises. He was in what was it, Don John? He was in a bunch of movies. They really were pushing Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the time. Then he stars in this movie, along with Michael Shannon. And this movie is one of those movies that, if I was going to describe it best, it's definitely the kind of movie you watch on like a Saturday morning. This isn't the kind of movie that is going to stick with you again for a very long time, but it sure is entertaining as hell, paced phenomenally. It just takes place over the course of one day. Joseph Gordon-Levitt essentially plays a runner in New York City. I don't know if this job even exists anymore, but when you need to get something across the city really fast and you can't email it or fax it, you give it to one of these guys on a bicycle because they can drive in between all the cars. Because if you know anything about New York City, there's just no fucking way that you're getting around that city fast unless you have a bike like he does, him and a bunch of other people. And of course, they bring up in this movie how everyone hates these people who ride bikes. And I can relate to that because, unfortunately, a lot of cyclists, especially here on Long Island, they'll take up the entire road. And, if somebody like in this movie, if they hit them, it's kind of their fault because they're trying to drive between and maneuver in between cars, but they know the risk. That's one thing they bring up in this movie. They know the risk, but they are a tight pack because of that. And in this movie, because we need to have a reason for this happening to make it interesting, he basically gets wrapped up in this, I wouldn't say it's a scheme, this one woman wants to get her daughter back and she has to trade $50,000 for, I think it's a dragon head, to get it back, to get her daughter to come back to this country. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the guy who's got to bring it across town. But unfortunately, Michael Shannon in this movie plays a dirty cop, and he wants that as well. So, of course, he's after Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. And Michael Shannon just plays his character in this movie ridiculously over the top, and I love it. He's my favorite part of this movie. He just doesn't feel like he's in the same movie as everybody else, but I still love his character in this movie. I always forget that Michael Shannon has this gear. He's always good. And we've seen him play, we've seen him play very dramatic roles and like Take Shelter, which I think is his best performance. Then, you kind of see him play it a little bit more dark, but still in a comedic movie like Knives Out. And then, of course, he's Zod in Man of Steel. So Michael Shannon has a bunch of different gears, but this is my favorite version of Michael Shannon just because I like seeing him play this character so over the top with this ridiculous laugh that he has. And the movie also is shot pretty uniquely. They do this thing where Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he has to make quick decisions. So we'll see like 3 different scenarios where he has to go through a certain amount of traffic. And, of course, the third one is the way around the traffic, which they do flip upside down at the very end of the movie. But when you see the movie, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But they do these unique scenarios showing us how it could end up if he goes this way or if he goes that way. Trying to show you that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the best of these people. And we see that throughout this movie. Now, the movie itself, like I said, it's very entertaining. It's not the greatest film I've ever seen, but it's definitely one you could sit down with your significant other or even your kids and just enjoy this movie. It's not one that you are going to go running back to. I don't think it's one I'll go running back to for a few years, but it sure was entertaining. If this is one you watched on a plane, I feel like you didn't waste your time with it. But how would I rank this movie on a score of 1 to 10? I would give Premium Rush a pretty solid 7.5 out of 10. And then last on the list is Nerve, starring Emma Roberts and David Franco. Emma Roberts, that's the niece of Julia Roberts, son of Eric Roberts. She really first came on my map with Scream 4. I just rewatched Scream 4 too. She is great in that movie. Emma Roberts usually is pretty great. I feel like she's not appreciated enough, but she is a very good actor. Very similar to how David Franco is. He's always been in he's always kind of been in the shadow of his brother James Franco, even though David Franco has always been pretty solid. I just feel like, he kind of gets panned a little bit because of his look. He always kind of looks younger than he is, and they kind of play into that in this movie. Same thing with Emma Roberts. And this could have been easily just one of those young adult films, but it's got a lot more to say than that. It's talking a lot about how social media is in the world. Like, this movie came out in 2016, but it easily could have came out in 2024 with the messaging on the movie. It kind of came out, I guess, around the time when they were doing that Ice Bucket Challenge. I think that was on Facebook, but, we have all those games that people play on the artist formerly known as Twitter or on TikTok where, they have these challenges, but this is taking that to the next level. And that's why it says, even in the menu system, you could be a watcher or a player. You could watch these people or you could dare them to do things, and it just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating to the point where there can only be one winner at the end of this, and that's where we see Emma Roberts and David Franco basically where they're heading. But they do end up forming a little bit of a relationship as well as the movie is going on. But this movie is filled with some really tension-filled scenes. Again, another very fast-paced movie that is very, very entertaining. that I thought was building up to a really good conclusion. That's my biggest flaw with this movie, is I kind of feel like they copped out in the third act and just went the safer route. And they gave you the safer, happier ending, where I feel like the darker ending, it might be a little bit cynical, and maybe in these types of movies, like these kind of young adult movies, they don't want to give you that cynical ending. Maybe it's just because I'm an older guy now and I want to see that cynical ending, because I feel like it's a more realistic approach, especially to a film like this, and what they're trying to discuss with like social media and how we are all just attached to our phones, and that's what's giving us the popularity, and people are just looking for vindication, on the internet. And for somebody like Emma Roberts' character, who's somebody who's clearly very shy, for her to come out of her shell in this movie, and she has this like competition with her friend, she's been trying to get her to come out of her shell, but now she's getting jealous because of course Emma Roberts is becoming more popular than her, which creates more conflict in the movie. But I just feel like everything that we were building to, they just kind of took the safe route, which is understandable. It's not a bad ending, it's just the ending that I wouldn't have chosen personally, so you can't really knock the movie for that. But it just felt like we were building to something different. But either way, the journey there is just fantastic. It's actually surprisingly very well acted, very well made. I do love how this movie is shot. Of course, I'm just a sucker for those bright neon colors, so that's speaking right to my heart. I know not everybody loves bright pinks and purples and greens, but I do. So, right away, that's something that was speaking right to me. And I think it's a very entertaining movie that you definitely should check out at some point. And surprisingly, this one just snuck by me, and it really shouldn't have, because it's a damn good movie. What would I give this movie on a score of 1 to 10? I'm going to give Nerve a really solid 8 out of 10. Out of all the movies I reviewed here, Christine was probably the best of them. But Nerve is one that I am definitely going to probably buy this Blu-ray myself. Maybe it'll get like a boutique label 4K Blu-ray down the line. But it's definitely one you should check out. And if you want to check it out, maybe you want to check it out in this physical media giveaway that we're doing this upcoming Tuesday. But let's get right into it. Let's get into our digital code giveaway. In every single video we do on Friday, we ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you got to do is answer 1 in the comment section below. As long as you do that, you come back to Tuesday's video. I put your name on a magic wheel. Spin that wheel 2 times. The 2 names it lands on, they have their choice of the digital codes you see on your screen before you today. And you know what? We were just talking about John Carpenter and Stephen King, so I want to ask you guys, what's your favorite John Carpenter movie? And what is your favorite Stephen King adaptation as far as the film goes of any of his books or novellas? Let me know in the comments section below, and then you'll be entered into our digital code giveaway. Now, the physical media care package giveaway is going to be a little bit different. I don't know if I was clear enough in the other video, but you do enter into this physical media care package giveaway, you will get every single one of these Blu-rays. So you will get Nerve on Blu-ray, Premium Rush on Blu-ray, Goon on Blu-ray, Unstoppable on Blu-ray, which is another one I wanted to keep. I love that movie. Assassination Nation on Blu-ray, The Pink Panther remake on Blu-ray, A-Team on Blu-ray, Repo Man on Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection, damn good Blu-ray, The Crow on Blu-ray, Killer Clowns from Outer Space on Blu-ray, Moon on Blu-ray, good Sony Blu-ray right there, Bad Boys 1 and 2, also from Sony on Blu-ray, The Departed on Blu-ray, Kindergarten Cop on Blu-ray, and Collateral on Blu-ray. Now, how do you enter into this physical media giveaway? Well, you're going to answer a question just like the digital code giveaway. You're just going to let me know, what is your favorite physical media label? That could be a major studio like Sony, or a boutique label like Arrow Video or Scream Factory. Just let me know, and as long as you do that, you'll be entered into this physical media care package giveaway. We'll do that magic wheel this upcoming Tuesday as well. And you guys, you don't have to enter into the giveaway if you don't want to. I don't mind at all. I just thought this would be something nice to do here on the channel, and especially since Mr. Smelly Potato was kind enough to donate all of those movies to give away to you guys, and I figured I'd throw in my movies as well. And we'll help somebody out. Maybe this will be their first introduction to physical media, and they'll start collecting movies now. Or, just more movies for the collection. It's always good for any physical media collector out there, so you can do whatever you want with these movies. Just make sure you give your answers to the digital code giveaway and the physical media giveaway in the comments section below. And while you're down there, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. We also have channel memberships, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, or a producer like John Doe Juggalo and Jason Martin, or a channel director like Mr. Smelly Potato and Frank from Frank's Medium Reviews, and if you are a channel director, we will review each of your choice reviews each and every single month. So on this show, next week, we will have Frank's Choice Review for the month of September, Triangle, and we will also have Mr. Smelly Potato's choice review of Swiss Army Man next week on the Let's Talk review show. But if you guys got no money to throw away, don't worry about it all. We just hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, Get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.